Our next guest is here to discuss our good old President Trump and the media. Please welcome Mike Litton.
All right, he's back. Mr. Mike Litton in the house. How you doing, sir?
Hey, buddy. Good to see you.
Good to see you, too. It's time for us to sort of appraise the situation. I think we were both pro-Trump going into the election, and now he's been in office for, I think, almost 120 to 130 days. Mm-hmm. We have a full-on attack from the media, for sure. At least most of the media, definitely attacking CNN, for sure, leading the charge there. Let's start off with mistakes. What do you think are the biggest mistakes Trump's made so far?
You know, I have an interesting take on this, and I know we haven't talked about this before. During the campaign, you and I had a conversation, and we talked about the fact that he was going to have to get his act together.
Yep. And
he had kind of gone off freelancing and kind of, you know, done some things and dug a hole that that he was having a tough time getting out of, that kind of deal. And I see that same pattern again. And now he's on this foreign trip and he's staying off Twitter and he's doing the things that he's staying to script, doing the things that got him back into the race during the campaign, if you remember. My feeling is, and I'm just going off the history of Trump, but my feeling about this is he's going to come around. He's all about success, and he's not succeeding right now. Okay, he's all about success, and what he's been doing isn't working. I feel like he's going to start listening to people, or he's going to get people around him that he's going to listen to, kind of like when he shook up the campaign and that kind of thing. Because once that last change was made, everything changed and it became a competitive race again. If you remember, she was up quite a bit, and right. So I think probably my feeling is the single biggest mistake that he's made is going off freelancing and doing the thin skin thing and feeling like he has to hit back on Twitter and that kind of thing. It's way different when you're a candidate than it is when you're governing. And our president has to be presidential. And what he's doing on this trip currently is he's being more presidential, I think anyway.
Well, yeah, definitely. No doubt about it. Staying off Twitter, first of all, that's step one. I think that's the biggest mistake. Maybe the second biggest mistake was trying to take on everybody all at once. You know, taking on the mainstream media, taking on the politicians. I mean, he got elected by saying the media, these people, they're all liars, and all the people in Washington are crooks.
Now, I'm with you. And
so that's tough.
But here's the thing.
Battle.
Now he's in Washington. Now he's, quote unquote, technically part of the establishment, right? That kind of stuff's got to change. It's got to change because he's got to govern. And here's the deal. If he doesn't get his act together fairly quickly, they're going to get killed in the midterm elections.
You think so?
Yeah, because the Democrats can't seem to find their way, but if he keeps this up, they're going to find their way. One of the fastest ways for them to get their act together is for him to give them something to galvanize behind. I guarantee it. So
what would they be running on today? I mean, what anti-Trump messaging?
Well, midterm elections are about whoever the president is.
But I mean, so the Republicans took over Congress by saying, well, we'll repeal and replace Obamacare, you know, when that got shoved down everybody's throat in like 2011 or 12 or whenever it was. But what message would, you know, the Democrats have against, I mean, what would they undo that he's done?
They're going to run on Trump care. They're going to run on all this supposed quasi-impeachable stuff. That's what they're going to run on.
They're going to say we're going to impeach him.
That's what they're going to run on. The Democrats just had a conference, or just had a convention last week here in California, and Maxine Waters went nuts on stage about impeachment this and impeachment that and all these quote unquote impeachable offenses and all that kind of stuff. If he's not careful, he's going to light a fire. See, when you have a fire, you don't add fuel to it. You don't spray, I mean, some people do, but you don't spray lighter fluid on it, right? Because the lighter fluid could catch fire and the stream could come back and you could get really burned. That's not wise. And my feeling about it is that the group that's in there now that's helping him to shape his message is the group that came from the campaign, and it was all about freelance, do your thing, right, say whatever you want to say, knock yourself out on Twitter, all that kind of thing. And the fact of the matter is that's not a winning combination for him.
Not as president.
At least I don't believe it is.
Okay. So you think that we have seen sufficient results? It's very early on. We were 4 months in, but do you think we've seen sufficient results based on what was promised?
I like what he's done so far. The challenge that I have is what we talked about. He keeps adding to it, and all he's doing is stiffening the opposition. So what he's going to have to do is he's going to have to figure out a way to do what he promised he would do, if you remember in the campaign, and that is get everybody involved in negotiation. The Democrats don't want to be involved in negotiation. They don't want to look like they're working with him at all. But he's going to have to find some common ground with them, like infrastructure, for instance, and he's going to have to find common ground with them as it relates to the health care reform. He's going to have to find some common ground as it relates to tax reform.
If there was one piece of advice you could give the president today that you know he would take to heart, what would it be?
Well, actually, it's two things. Stay off Twitter and follow your script.
So just stay on message.
Stay on message.
Yeah.
Read your teleprompter and let that be enough.
All right.
I would complain. I think probably there's one more. I would complain less about the media.
Okay.
Let them bury themselves. There's no reason for you to help add, because when he does the things that he does in terms of criticizing them, all he's doing is adding, and it sounds weird, but all he's doing is adding credibility to them. And that's not what you want to do. You want to let them bury themselves.
Yeah.
When they go off the deep end like that, let them go.
Which they've been trying to do. I mean, when you have people like Noam Chomsky, who is a known far left guy, come out and say, hey, this whole Trump-Russia thing is a joke. That's what he said. When you have someone in his position saying something like that, it kind of should make everyone go, all right, what's really going on here? Are we grasping for straws? And I think the biggest issue is it's the whole story of the boy who cried wolf. I mean, from the moment he got in there, they've just been attacking him for every single thing he's done, which actually makes him a much more dangerous president. I think he could get away with a lot more now than he could have before because of the fact that there's so many different things.
See, I disagree with that. My feeling about this, and again, you have to play it right. And if there's one thing that Trump knows how to do is how to play it. And he knows how to play it right. If he backs up and starts listening to people that can get his ear, that can talk to him and tell him, hey, you need to stop and think about this for a second. If he surrounds himself with people that are strong enough to do that, I feel like what he'll do is he'll play it smarter rather than harder. Right now, he's doing everything, well, he was before this trip, he was doing everything in terms of like heavy lifting, and he was, for lack of a better term, digging himself into a hole. My feeling about this is because he wants to win, somebody needs to stop him and go, look, if you keep this up, if you keep going down this road, you're going to dig yourself a hole that you can't get yourself out of, and you're going to add fodder to your opposition, including the mainstream media, including the liberal media, right? You're going to add fodder to them that you can't get back.
It seems like, though, no matter what he does, I mean, even, going to Saudi Arabia, cutting a huge deal there, bringing in a lot of money and a lot of jobs directly into the United States. There was an attachment on there where Saudi Arabia gave a $100 million donation to the World Bank Women's Fund, which is something that Ivanka was in charge of creating. It was her idea. And so immediately they start saying, oh, this is just like the Clinton Foundation. They're funneling money over here. So it seems like no matter what he does, they're just going to make up some kind of crazy idea that could possibly, maybe, potentially have some weird, collusion involved. And I think that's the biggest trouble when you go against the media, is that they can just make stuff up. I mean, how many anonymous sources have we heard things from, and then
too many
full-blown stories come out?
Too many. And here's the thing: the way that you go about, in a weird way, the way that you go about verifying, that those anonymous sources are correct, or that there's some there, is by responding. By trying to battle them on their own level. You can't battle them on their own level. These people are not presidents, okay? This is not the same thing. This is not the same thing as the campaign. We're not battling for marketing time here. We're not battling for media time here. We don't need to battle for media time. And here's the thing, and there's no way around this. There's got to be one message and one message only. And I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat. There's got to be one message, and that's jobs. That's jobs. So the American people feel like that this Obamacare repeal and replace, or whatever it is you want to call it, they feel like this is something where you're taking something away. What he needs to do is get back on message to where he and the Republican Party are explaining to the American people that this is all about jobs. This is all about jobs. They need to get back to the 37-hour work week. They need to get back to the conversation about all the people who were laid off because of Obamacare. They need to get back to how this healthcare reform, yeah, it might hurt. Yeah, it might take a bite, but it's something that's going to add jobs. It's something that's going to help us to recover this economy. He needs to stay on message. This whole thing with Saudi Arabia, the best thing he did was when they asked him a question at a quasi, it wasn't a press conference, but it was a little, they asked him a couple of questions when he was sitting with, I think it was Al-Sisi. Mm-hmm. It was all about jobs, jobs, jobs. Best thing he said the entire trip. This is all about jobs, jobs, jobs. That's what he needs to stick to. He needs to stay on message and stick to what, the American people elected him because of the Supreme Court. Look at the numbers. Yeah. They elected him because of the Supreme Court. They elected him because of jobs. Tax reform, economic reform, jobs. This whole thing is about the Supreme Court and jobs. And they were more scared of her and who she might end up putting on the court for the next 40 years than they were of him. This was about who was scared of who the most.
So get back to that.
Yeah, this wasn't one of those things where he became, and he needs to remember this. He didn't get elected. He got elected by a small group of people, right? A smaller percentage than most presidents that have won elections. That was a small group. That small group, yeah, they were fired up. That small group, yeah, they finally came out of the shadows. They finally became that silent majority that was silent no more. The problem we have is that silent majority may very well retreat. The rest of the country needs to understand that this entire thing, everything he's doing, Saudi Arabia trip, Iranian deal, whatever it is, it's all about jobs.
Jobs, jobs, jobs.
That's what it needs to be.
Thank you so much for coming in today.
That's got to be the message.
President Trump, hopefully you're paying attention. I think you just got the game plan to win in 2020. Stick around for more Smarter San Diego TV, where we guarantee to make you smarter than everyone else. Commercial free.